Hello students, Professor Arneline M. Torres here. I'm here to expound on two illustrations that is part of part 1 of our 21st century skills learning, and this is about the value chain and the future of 21st century work. So let's start first with value chain. Value chain is a process or activities by which a company adds value to a product. Or in a simple term, it's called a business model wherein it has a process or activities that creates something into a product or service. Let's take a look at these arrows first. These arrows represents a process. So meaning to say, during the industrial age, the business model is there is extraction, followed by manufacturing, then it goes to the assembly, and then move to marketing. From marketing, it goes to distribution of the products and services. For us to better understand how this business process undergoes, let's maybe uh, make it clear by giving an example of a product. Assuming our product is a chocolate. Okay? So when we say chocolate, chocolate is something which is not alone in the production of the chocolate bar. There are other ingredients that you usually use and gather to produce the chocolate bar. So let's start from extraction. Extraction can be it's defined as the process of removing something. Okay, so it can be like, for example, where does chocolate comes from? Chocolate's main ingredient or the chocolate main ingredient is actually the cacao nibs. Cacao nibs is a product of the cocoa plant or the cacao plant. Now, that plant has a fruit, and from that fruit, we can get the cocoa powder. So before we can produce the chocolate, we have to process first the cacao nib and convert it into cocoa or chocolate. So that's where extraction happens. Now, after we extract our raw material or main ingredient, it goes now to manufacturing. So when we say manufacturing, it's actually the production. So the production of the chocolate bar. So what do we need to produce this chocolate bar? Okay, so we manufacture the chocolate bar by maybe combining together uh, the chocolate, the sugar, the nuts, maybe if there are nuts, and the other flavors to complete the chocolate bar. So from manufacturing, okay, the product is ready, but that product cannot be sold yet because it has to go to the assembly. Assembly would mean putting the chocolate bar inside a wrapper. Maybe that chocolate bar on a wrapper is packed in a box of maybe 10, and that box is again assembled or organized into a big box. So that's what the assembly goes in. So assembly means putting together. Now when the product is ready, the next move that the product will go to is the marketing. Marketing is an action of promoting and selling products and services, including market research and advertising. Okay, so you let the people aware, you let the public aware that you are manufacturing the best chocolate bar. And so, after letting people aware and after knowing maybe the stores that you have the best chocolate bar, you are now ready to distribute the product. Distribution is the process of supplying that product into the other businesses, maybe like a supermarket or like a mart that sells to the consumers. So that's now what we call the industrial age value chain. Okay, so there's also a parenthesis here that sells services because sometimes the product is not the product alone, but the product actually comes with a service. Let's give another example of a product that has product and service combined. So let's look into a, um, a washing machine. Okay, so how do we start with the washing machine? So maybe there's no extraction, but probably instead of extraction, we gather the raw materials together. What are the different parts or what are the different materials that we need to ready in order for us to manufacture a washing machine? So maybe there's this plastic, there are maybe screws, or there are dials, the different parts of the washing machine that are manufactured individually and then put together into assembly. So that washing machine becomes now the final product here. Okay, as just like the chocolate bar, it needs to be marketed, meaning to say the public has to be aware that such washing machine exists and that they will definitely make an action of buying or purchasing the washing machine. Now, from marketing, sometimes you can buy directly to the company, or sometimes that company would use a third party or what we call a marketing intermediary, like maybe a high mart or maybe an e-mart that distributes the product. So the product now is being distributed. Now, where does service comes in? Service comes in when you buy the washing machine. Definitely, you cannot use it yet because that washing machine has to be attached to a source of water or the water supply, and it has to be positioned in such a way that it's close to the drain. So maybe you cannot just bring home the product and use it immediately, but you need a service of a technician that comes from the company to assemble the product, make it ready before you can use it. So that's again an example of the value chain or what we call a business model that uh, is being done under the industrial age. Now, what's interesting here is when we look at the knowledge age value chain, some of the parts or the business model is almost the same, especially when it comes to the last two parts, which is marketing of the services and the products. Okay, but in here, you will see that after marketing, okay, there's no distribution because sometimes there are no third party that will distribute the product. But what is interesting here is in the industrial age, what comes first is the product. And then maybe it comes with a service. But here in the knowledge age value chain, what comes first after marketing is the service, okay, and the product. So let's try to understand the business model in the knowledge age. So we can see here again the presence of arrows that represents the process or the activity being done in order for us to produce a service. So it starts with data, moving on to information, then to knowledge, then to expertise, then marketing, and the services. Okay, let's look at the different steps and understand what does the step uh, starts with. Okay, we have here data. So when we say data, data are facts, data are details, or data are statistics. So it's any piece of, I would say, uh, uh, information. So the data becomes an information when the data is processed, organized, or structured. In other words, if you are confused between the difference of the data and the information, the data, as I've said, are facts, details, and statistics. When it goes to the next step, which is information, information is the refined form of data. Okay, it's a refined form of data. From the data, it goes to information and then to knowledge. What's now is knowledge? When we say knowledge, it is something that, you know, something that is relevant or maybe or an objective information that helps us in drawing conclusion. So let's say, for example, we received the statistics of the tourist arrival, and we found out that the statistics of the tourist arrival does not match the number of accommodation present in a certain destination. So we can see here, okay, a disparity between the accommodation number and between the visitors number. So maybe what we can do would be to, okay, from that knowledge, you can draw a conclusion. Your conclusion is the number of accommodation is not equal to the number of the tourists, okay, coming in. So, in short, we can say that there is maybe a shortage of information, a shortage of accommodation. Now, what will happen after you draw conclusion from the knowledge that you have acquired? Okay. Now, what will happen to that knowledge is it will go to some experts. What will be the experts do in relation to the knowledge that they receive? So the experts will know how to find or how to make a solution. Let's say, for example, I did mention that uh, there's no balance between the tourist arrival and the accommodation, and that you found that there is an opportunity probably to produce more. But it so happened because you're good in finding information that as an expert, you don't need to produce, but instead you need to top only the different businesses that offers accommodation. You only don't know that they exist because there's no information. And so after you find the solution now, okay, so probably your solution would be to come up with an application that will connect both the tourist and the accommodation. So maybe it can be another booking.com or another hotels.com, and maybe you name it by yourself, and then you're ready to market, okay, that application, so that both the tourist and the accommodation or the lodging businesses can meet each other. And so the creation of the application is what we call the service now. Okay? And the product is the service or the application that will be created. So that's the difference between industrial age value chain and the knowledge age value chain. Here, we are actually using the knowledge for us to produce service and product. But here, we are using physical labor, or we're using, yeah, the physical labor or the brawn power for us to produce products and services. I hope I was able to give you a clear understanding, or I was able to explain the difference between the business model during the industrial age and now in the knowledge age. So if you have questions, let's talk about those questions during our online class discussion. Let's move on to the next illustration. I'd like to start by saying the world of knowledge age work requires a new mix of skills. Jobs that require routine manual and thinking skills are giving way to the jobs that involve higher levels of knowledge and applied skills like expert thinking and complex communicating. The rising demand for a highly skilled workforce also means that there will be a growing income gap between less educated, relatively unskilled workers and highly educated, highly skilled workers. Routine tasks are increasingly being automated, and the routine jobs are still done by people barely paid a living wage. Routine work is moving to countries where the cost of labor is very low. Our education systems must now prepare as many students as possible for jobs at the top of the chart. This part. The highly paying knowledge work jobs of today and tomorrow that require complex skills, expertise, and creativity. What is certain is that two essential skill sets will remain at the top of the list of job requirements for the 21st century. First, the ability to quickly acquire and apply new knowledge. And second, the know how to apply essential 21st century skills like problem solving, communication, teamwork use, innovation, and the rest to every project, the primary unit of the 21st century work. So in this illustration, we can see, again, I'd like to repeat what I said, that there's a lot of routine work. This triangle represents at the bottom of it the routine work that are being done during the industrial age. So at first, the routine work started by having people doing or finishing the routine work. And then nowadays, because we have technology, technology is replacing the routine work done by people before by machines. And as I have previously said, most of the labor work or the manual work are done in countries where labor is cheap. Now, if you students would like to have an opportunity to find work, and if you are afraid to actually not get a job, because as you have mentioned during our discussion, that the machines or the robots are replacing the jobs of people, then don't be afraid. Why? Because if you have the higher levels of knowledge and applied skills, such as this here in this part, in the top of the triangle or in the top of the pyramid, you don't need to worry about that. So in that case, you have to prepare yourself for you to be able to do this creative work. This creative work might include research, development or innovation, might include design or the new way of doing marketing and selling, and how to distribute it in a bigger global market. So, again, I'd like to emphasize that the know how to apply the 21st century skills is very important. Okay? And this includes problem solving, communication, teamwork, technology use, innovation, and the rest for you to really have a place in the future. So, I hope you understand this illustration and take it as a challenge so that you can fit in the future workplace. If you have questions, let's talk about it in our online class, and there we can further understand this illustration if you still have a problem understanding it. Thank you for listening and see you in the next presentation.